And obviously we can then discuss the details at the end. My presentation is based really on on the elements introduced already by Gregorio, and I will try to give you the details for the items identified by Gregorio, which are expected to be provided in the CAP plan as regards LEADER. So the first part is about the basic information, starting from the intervention name. So obviously here, yes, it's up to you to define the name, but we still need to know that you mean LEADER. So LEADER should ideally be part of the name. And here, the first aspect is that the whole LEADER is constructed around four types of support, which are defined in the Article 28(1) of the Common Provisions Regulation. And actually, the first step is the preparation of the strategies, and the second is the implementation. So ideally, those two parts should be distinct in the plan, and we should be able to assess them obviously together, but we should be able to have sufficient details about each of those steps. That's why we recommend to design two interventions and not one. So one corresponding to the preparation, the capacity building and preparation of the strategies, and the second one to the whole step related to the very implementation of the strategies, including running costs and management costs of the strategies and implementation. Obviously, since you will have the possibility to support the preparation of the strategies during the transitional period under the current rural development programs, if this support is provided already in the years 21-22 under the RDPs, there is no obligation to propose it again under the CAP plan if no such support will be needed anymore. Otherwise, all the elements included in Article 28(1) are obligatory. As regards the type of intervention, obviously, we refer here to Article 71 on cooperation. That's where the whole support to LEADER should be programmed, and that's the legal basis for LEADER to be referred to in this place. As regards the output indicators, there's one output indicator designed specifically for LEADER, and that's the output indicator 27, which is quite special because it has two subsets. The first one relates to the number of the strategies prepared. So here we want to quantify the number of let's say partnerships that designed local development strategies and got support for this. And the second subset of the output indicator relates to the number of strategies which are selected and then get support. As regards the territorial scope, so this is just a mere indication whether, I mean, it's to reflect the approach towards programming. So in the case where a LEADER is designed at the regional level, you will choose the second possibility, and you will be asked to list all the regions concerned by the intervention. Concerning the related specific objectives, obviously, here the member state has to look for the specific objective where the intervention would make a direct and significant contribution. And as regards LEADER, the specific objective 8 seems to be the most suitable, as it includes the reference to local development in rural areas where LEADER intervention would always contribute. If, however, for reasons that you will have to explain, you wish to link LEADER also with some other specific objectives, this is not excluded. However, we strongly encourage to use as default the SO8 since it's been created for LEADER. I mean, the part on local development has been created for LEADER. It allows to respect the local and integrated nature of this instrument. It gives it the rule orientation. It also allows LACs actually then to further define their local priorities. So that's how it should be ideally used, yes. As regards the result indicators, here I will be very short since we've discussed this topic very thoroughly in the GRECSE, and it was done twice. So here, let me just remind that together with the Council, a two-step process for choosing result indicators and setting targets has been worked out. So the member states are supposed to link LEADER with a result indicator where it would make, again, a direct and significant contribution. Now, given the bottom-up nature of this intervention, the only indicator actually which member states can link with LEADER at the stage of programming is the result indicator 31A, which has been again proposed by one of the presidencies, which refers to the number of population covered by local development strategies. So as the calls for the selection of local development strategies are in the hands of the member states, this indicator can be relatively well planned and then translated to milestones and targets. So that's probably the most suitable indicator to be picked up, to be linked with LEADER at the stage of designing the program. And in the second step, once the strategies are selected, it is expected that the CAP strategic plan reflects the additional result indicators that could be linked with LEADER based on the content of the local development strategies. Here, one remark. If you have two interventions, you would also normally be expected to link capacity building and preparatory support for local development strategies with the same result indicator as support to LEADER. And there would be no contribution expected naturally from the preparatory stage to the targets. The common result indicators, as set out in Annex 1, practically allow to cover broadly the three aspects of sustainable development to which LEADER is called to contribute. So member states could create a shortlist based on those indicators which they think are relevant for the purpose they set for LEADER in their CAP plan, and propose them to the local action groups then for them to pick up those where they would plan to make the contribution.
Okay.
I hear some additional voices if
Yes, Jeremy, I think it's your mic. Please, could you mute yourself, or I'm trying as well to do it.
Thank you. A remark here, the local development strategies must not be limited to projects that directly generate value for result indicators. So picking up a result indicator in the plan for LEADER doesn't mean checking contribution of each project supported under LEADER for this result indicator. We all know that LEADER is the real effect of LEADER should be assessed at the level of the strategy. And some projects are supported to prepare further projects, which only then generate some result and impact, and all together creates a value added. So this is a remark to be kept in mind when you create the approach towards the result indicators, and then link it with possibly the obligations put on the LACs, and link it with the eligibility conditions. Another thing, there is nothing, none of the result indicators proposed in Annex 1 allows really to capture a very important part of a LEADER objective, which is capacity building and innovation. So if you want to give it visibility and for your own purposes of evaluation of the performance of this instrument, you are very welcome to come up with such a result indicator. So I've already mentioned that it would be preferable for visibility reasons, but also for the logical reasons to split the intervention in two. We know that the conditions attached to preparatory support, the amount of the support will be different from what will then be relating to the implementation of the strategies. However, if you choose not to create two separate interventions, the whole description on eligibility and targeting should allow us to see clearly which part and which condition relates to which stage of implementation. So whether it relates to the preparation of the strategy or whether it relates to the whole stage which follows the selection. As regards the eligibility conditions, so already replying a bit to the questions that have been raised in the plenary. No, we do not need to know each single condition in the plan. However, all the information that we are asking for here should give us the general principle which allow to understand the targeting of the intervention, but also it should give us an ex-ante assurance as regards the potential of the intervention to contribute to the plan objective and to fulfill and to reach the objective, to meet the objectives of the instrument, and I will come back to it later as regards LEADER. So any territorial targeting you might choose should be explained here. Separate eligibility criteria for preparatory support, eligibility criteria for the selection of strategies, and here to reply to the question also raised in the plenary whether we would like to see, whether we need to see the selection criteria of strategies. No, we do not need to see the selection criteria. However, it would be very useful to see the approach towards the selection, whether, for instance, you foresee any iterative process in the selection of the local action groups. So based on our experience with a program, we may consider that some strategies might have been weak, and it would be good for us to know what you do in order to help the local action groups to improve their capacity. And maybe if you have this iterative process in this selection, it would demonstrate that you want to give a special assistance to the local action group actually to present a strategy which meets the minimum quality, and still allow them to implement the LEADER approach, to use the LEADER approach. So this type of information would be very useful here. We would also like to see how you are planning to ensure that the minimum quality requirements, both for the strategies and for the partnerships, would be ensured. For instance, there is the requirement for the inclusiveness. I mean, the partnership has to be representative for the area. So how are you going to ensure that? Is there any thematic concentration orientation you are planning? And how then it should allow for the local targeting. So all this type of information should be briefly described. Then what would be the obligations of the local action groups to receive support? And if you plan to limit the eligibility conditions for local operations, which are at the moment linked to the conditions which are set for investments, then it would be also necessary to identify them. And the same as regards beneficiaries. So we need to this information for both preparatory support and implementation of strategies. It is obviously for the local action groups then to target the support on the local level, and this we assume this will be done by the local action groups, and this is not an information to be put in the plan, since the managing authorities are not supposed to interfere at this level. We would also like to see what would be the approach towards the selection of preparatory support beneficiaries and the strategies. So this I have already mentioned. And what would be the approach towards allocating the budget per strategy? Finally, a section which I think is the most strategic from my point of view. So here we are requesting the elements which, in your view, ensure that the intervention would effectively contribute to the chosen specific objective. So the objective of local development in the case of LEADER, most probably, but also how you will ensure that it contributes to the objectives of the instrument. So we know that in the recitals for the Common Provisions Regulation, the objectives for CLD have been clearly set out. It's building local capacity, it's stimulating innovation, it's providing for structural changes. And it is expected that LEADER, the design of LEADER supports those objectives and is actually fit for those benefits to come out. And this has to, this section is here for you to explain how you think the intervention will ensure it. Again, we expect here also indication how the basic requirements relating to the method will be ensured, such as the bottom-up, non-dominance of in interest group, representativeness that I have already mentioned. And finally, which elements will ensure that LEADER is in line with the Charter of Fundamental Rights and General Principles of Union. Obviously, this concerns each intervention, but it's since LEADER is especially important instrument to work on inclusiveness in the context of the CAP plan. We would like to see how you will make sure that this happens. Another element is the consistency and coordination aspects. So here we would like to see how the additional value will be achieved through instrument compared to other available instruments, and what will enable that. I provided here a couple of examples which you can have a look at. But basically, this is a bit of an extraction of what you think makes LEADER different and how you are going to ensure it. And finally, as regards coordination with the other funds, for multi-funded CLD, that's the place to indicate whether any multi-funded strategies will be supported, if yes, with which fund, how the scope of support will be coordinated between the different funds. Here, an important remark, there is no strict demarcation requested on the CAP level between the funds. So this is something which we will already have in the current period, but it's certainly valid for LEADER also for the next one. And the use of the lead fund option in the case it is taken, which fund is then going to fulfill this role, and the possibility for one fund to cover preparatory support, running cost and animation. Again, if it's the case, it would be good. It is necessary to indicate it here. Concerning the form and rate of support, there is nothing I think I need to specify as regards LEADER. We expect different approaches depending on the category of costs. I think the important possibility for establishing the SCOs here is the draft budget. So we'll be carefully watching whether you considered this option, and certainly trying to encourage you to enable this type of payment in this intervention. For this state aid, just one remark. Information which has been already transmitted in this current period, but I know it took a bit of time to establish it, so I will maybe just recall that the aid for preparatory support and management and animation is not considered as state aid as long as the aid recipients, so the beneficiaries of the preparatory support, and Deluxe, which received the support for running the strategy, are not economic actors. However, if they are economic actors, there's again no state aid, but the local action groups have to keep separate accounting in order to be sure that they that the money is not creating any disbalance on the economic, on the market, in case they are themselves carrying out some economic activities outside running the partnership and the strategy. As regards the WTO, LEADER is part of the cooperation intervention, so the approach chosen for the cooperation type of intervention should be chosen. As regards the unit amount and indicative financial allocation, I will not dwell on it here. Again, please refer to the presentation made in GREXE. However, if you have any questions, you are very welcome. I will take them. So one last remark. Since under LEADER, it is important equally what is done and how it is done. That's why we will need to have the necessary elements for us to make sure that all the elements of the intervention are consistent with the LEADER method, that the intervention enables to achieve the objectives put in front of CLD, and that the intervention brings a clear value added to the plan compared to other interventions.